Yeah, CYDY big dump day last week was, that was one of the biggest trades I've ever had. That was,
Yeah.
most of my money was just on the initial huge 15-minute dump, where I was short almost 60,000 shares and covered that all up for like, I can't even remember the number now. I just know where I was at the end of all the trades, and it was 272,000.
How's it going, traders? I'm Matthew Monaco, one of the co-hosts of Twist. I was unable to make this episode today, but it's a really great one between our other co-hosts, Kyle Williams, Jack Kellogg, and our special guest, Tim Grittani. He goes over a lot of his trades. They talk a lot about mindset and developing as a trader. And specifically, Tim Grittani breaks down his CYDY $272,000 day back on June 30th when it panned. It's a really great episode. But before we dive in, I want you guys to check out the link below. Recently, I gave a webinar for StocksToTrade with Tim Bowen, and the replay link is in the description below. So before we jump into the episode, make sure you check that out. And if you're new, make sure you subscribe to this channel and like as always. We have some big things coming for Twist and a little hint giveaway next week. So make sure you stick around for that. It's going to be really cool. And that will be announced in next week's episode. So let's dive right in.
All right, welcome back, guys, for this week in CytoDyn. Today we have a very special guest, Tim Grittani. If you do not know who he is, you probably live under a rock. I suggest you go watch any other video, Google his name. You know, he's one of the best traders in this industry. So we brought him on today. We're gonna do the typical episode, you know, talking about our trades and what we're seeing the market do. So let's just get right started. Grittani, what do you, how's your week going? What do you see? Anything different about the market changing? What's new?
Yeah, so my week has been it's been okay. I'm not satisfied with it, to be honest. Like, I feel like I've been a little bit just unfocused, I think is the best way to put it, and like not totally mentally there. So I've kind of eased back a little and kept myself on the sidelines a little more than normal. But you know, I've had a couple good wins and a few misses that kind of upset me. But yeah, it's going okay.
Right on, right on. How about you, Jack? How's your week going?
Week's going good. I think the action's been pretty steady last like 5-6 weeks or so. Just with the OTCs in general, I just think there's been pretty much a decent amount of opportunity every single week in the OTC market, and then kind of just wallet padding when there's a ideal NASDAQ setup. But you know, I'm still going strong, and it's been a good week so far.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I was just thinking, I always think one day it might slow down, expecting that summer trading to come along, but then every time there's just always a new play, always coming along. So we're staying steady with plays, more and more opportunities every day. So let's hop right into the charts. I'm going to share my screen here. So which one do you want to start with, Grittani?
We can start with GNUS. Yeah, perfect.
GNUS. Okay, I'll go with like a 15-day minute chart here.
Yeah, and that was just big one I had on watch coming into the week, and probably the one I was like most prepared for. I felt like Monday morning, just because I've been thinking about it so much over the long weekend. You know, it just crazy dilution, like nonstop between the warrants and the convertible notes. And I was kind of coming into the week with the assumption that the convertible notes could go effective any day, really, and then start getting sold. And you know, they're 21 cents a share. The conversion price, so that's just like an insane,
Wow.
insane discount.
Yeah.
And but even if you take away the dilution, it was just like a huge sell the news setup where it's like the CEO is going to have a conference call to discuss an exciting new development, you know, and the stock goes up over 50% off the lows on that. So I was coming into Monday morning with a really aggressive mindset. I was really hoping to get it like 450 or 5 or something like that, like up into that area. But pre-market, what they wound up doing was, like right where the drop starts to happen in pre-market there, that's when the press release came out of what the conference call was going to be about. And someone in the chat room was saying like that all the speculation was like, oh, they're going to announce a partnership with, I can't even remember who they thought they might announce a partnership with, but you know, StockTwits was wrong as usual. And it turned out to just be like some weird Stanley related thing. So you know, the sell-off started pre-market, and I slammed it with 50,000 shares right when I saw that was all the news was, and wound up swinging it overnight, got the effect that night, and I covered it up this morning actually. So my short average was a 383 average, 50,000 shares. And I covered this morning like right at 240, just because at that point,
Nice.
you know, the effect had happened. They filed the 424B3, and the stock was really just sideways out of the gate this morning. Nothing really happening, holding green. So I just figured like, why even risk there being some kind of weird bounce and ramp? And also, it's an expensive hold overnight. Like there's huge short interest fees. It's like a 350% rate or something like that. So covering today keeps me from paying fees over the weekend because of T+2 settlement. So it was just like, yeah, okay, I'll take it off now. It's fine.
Yeah, totally. That's awesome. Yeah, I was looking for the short as well on it. Fortunately, I was not as disciplined as you were with the news and the dilution, because I was just hoping, you know, I always say I'm so bearish, I'm bullish. So I just wanted this to go as high as possible, but obviously, you know, the event and the news coming out, that just killed it. So by the time, you know, we opened up, I just felt like I was chasing down here, but obviously, you know, with the dilution, it played off big time. So that's awesome. So,
Yeah,
all right. Or go ahead, Jack.
Yeah, I was going to say that just seemed like a really simple one. Right at the news, basically, it was just straight down. And, you know, those are always the best trades, in my opinion, is when they just immediately start working. And that was just an amazing, bounceless, dilutive unwind all the way down. So great trade there. I missed that one. I kind of thought that there'd at least be some kind of ramp into the news. So I wasn't going to go after a pre-market, but apparently that was just the wrong mindset there. Because it opened, I'm pretty sure it opened red on the day. So,
yeah,
that was a cool one.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's go on to MOGU. So how'd you go about this, Grittani?
Yeah, that was probably my next best trade of the week, and that was just this morning. And I just gave that the overextended gap down treatment. You know, pre-market actually is where I started looking at it, and you know, it was a pretty big gap down and started having that big ramp up the last 15 minutes or so of pre-market action. So I actually started trying to short into that ramp up pre-market and fill maybe 2,000 shares, and I was going for 20,000. So it was really bad fills initially. I didn't get much size at all. And after market open, thankfully, there was a bit more push, and it did actually get back up into the 530, 535 area I was trying to short. So I wound up filling a total of 17,000 shares short. And then rather than take the patience approach, I just went for the quick, stress-free, pay myself into weakness. And my covers were in the 450, 425 area. I covered in two pieces.
Right on. And I'm assuming you were risking red green or previous
Yeah,
days high.
it was a red green risk. So it was like a 532 average, and red green was right around 6, if I remember right. So it was like a little bit bigger than my normal full size, but barely. 17,000 shares.
And I'm assuming, and I think I know the answer to this question, because this is how I typically like to play extended gap down. It's like if it's gapping down close enough to red green and the previous high day is also not too far away, that's probably the better risk level in mind. But if it's like in this case where if the gap down's right, the gap down's too big, you know, you kind of almost risk reward wise, it's tough to risk, you know, up to $7 or 685 and, you know, short at 530, you know. So
yeah, absolutely.
That's correct thinking. Right on. All right, cool. And then, and I guess I'm assuming you played CYDY on the big dump day as well, though, right? Last week.
Yeah, CYDY big dump day last week was. I mean, that was one of the biggest trades I've ever had. That was.
Yeah.
Most of my money was just on the initial huge 15-minute dump, where I was short almost 60,000 shares, and covered that all up for like, I can't even remember the number now. I just know where I was at the end of all the trades, and it was 272,000. But
so awesome.
But you know, of course, like now, like I'm at the point where like I'm just always kind of too self-critical, and rather than focus on the good, I'm just like, oh, I fucked up the bounce. Like I wanted to nail the bounce part of that too, and I just completely blew it on the bounce.
Just because there's a lot of fake level 2 turns on the way down, so it's kind of hard to trust the level 2 turn down at $5. The only thing that I think made it easy was kind of $5 was everybody's kind of in my number on where it should kind of go, I think.
Right.
And that's, I mean, I guess the turn down there, but it was still tough just because could have slipped down to even 4 possibly, you never really know, maybe even 3. But it ended up bouncing off the support.
I'm finding with a lot of these OTC panics, especially lately, like I tend to like have these wish levels in mind where I'm like, oh, I really hope the panic gets this low and then I'll buy it. And it seems like it just never makes it. So maybe I need to start adjusting my expectations a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember you're always like Deccan needs to go lower, like lower. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, but I don't know.
Did
Still
you
with
guys
me.
get the bounce on that one too, or were you just did you just bank on the short side?
Yeah, I think I had, I don't know what Kyle's average was, but my average was like 515 or something. And then I just kind of sold out into the strength on the first bounce. And I got stuck with maybe like a third of my position that I chased the sells down, unfortunately. But then
Okay.
I rebought some into the next turn, and then I kind of just got shaken out. It was kind of choppy. It wasn't like a perfect, straight
Yeah, it wasn't a smooth
bounce.
bounce. Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of tough. And even the bounce short was kind of tough because of that extra little push that it had through the
like mid sevens here.
Sevens, like 750. That
Oh
extra little
yeah.
push was kind of tough, but
Yeah.
the dump was
I had
the
a
best part.
similar
The dump was the best part.
panic was the best part. I had a similar entry on the long side. I was like low fives. But yeah, I made the same mistake where I just kind of lost big picture of how much it had come down. And so I ended up selling, like, I think my best sell was like 585. I couldn't get any long sells over 6. So I just totally sold way too early. But I just allowed me to be super focused for the bounce and got like I believe a low 7s average on the bounce, and then, faded it down to 6 into the close there. So more
Yeah,
happy with the
that's
short
good
than
if it
the
helps you
long.
keep your focus like on the more bread and butter part of the setup, because
Mhm.
I've definitely done that before where like I get into a long trade on something I'm really looking to short down the road, and then I wind up not even shorting it or barely filling size or something.
Yeah, exactly. And then today was a great panic. Did you hit any of this, Grittani, or no?
I didn't really. I tried to short one of the fake turns
Hmm.
around the time where there was a chat room that bought it, and I didn't fill. I got like 2,000
Yeah,
shares, and I just covered it into the weakness. So I made like $500 on it, and I never played it again.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, this is one of those plays where it's pretty unique, but I saw it a lot. I saw this happen a lot when all the OTC weed runners back in like 2018 would happen, where the typical framework where you see like the 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but this is almost like a 7 where you have these like key levels of support, and all of a sudden you start seeing going sideways into the close here, and then panic sets in. So that's kind of what I was looking for, and it paid off today. So that was really cool.
Yeah, like going forward with it, I think the next thing I'd probably look for is like I'd hope for that 465 area to break down, and then like get some kind of huge wash down to like 2 or something absurd. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that
Whatever brings back like crazy volatility for it.
Yeah. And I think you were trading a little bit of LKNCY, correct?
Yeah.
Maybe not today, but short a couple times last week.
Yeah, last week I was shorted too. I got a little overpatient on that short. It was I had a pretty good entry on the short. It was like 290 or something like that with 50,000 shares, and I swung it overnight, and then it had the gap up. Was it after the weekend? Was it Monday that I covered it? I think it was.
Yeah, it was over the weekend. Yep.
Yeah, and I just covered it pretty much like out of the gate on Monday. I didn't even want to mess with it because I was just kind of spooked by the gap up. So I think I wound up actually taking a loss on that 50,000 shares. I think my covers were around 3 or the high 2s. And then it was just sit back and wait and see if it can break out past 315, which, was the high that it's been since the delist. And it did have the 315 break, and I bought about 47,000 shares or something like that. And then that dip down to 310 yesterday actually shook me out. And I'm so disappointed in myself for it, because it's like one of those like weird midday moments where you're just kind of like bored and tired and just like, I don't even want to deal with this. And like, so like I saw the weakness, and I just, for once I didn't have patience, and I was just like, okay, screw it. So I sold it for a loss. And then like right towards the close, I was like, why did I do that? It's closing strong now. This probably gaps up. This probably continues. I guess I could rebuy it here. And I kind of lost track at the time a little bit. So I threw in a 50,000 share buy order, like in what I thought was the last couple of minutes of the day. And I was like, okay, I guess I'll just fill it and gap it. And I filled like 4,000 shares, and then like I hear this ding, ding, ding from Thinkorswim. So like I put in the order like 3 seconds before close. So I was just like, oh my God. So then this morning I just sold off, kind of just to focus on other stuff. I think I was out by like 355 or 360, and I just watched it go without me the rest of the day. So now I guess it's time to wait for the reshort.
Yep. Yeah, I had the same thing
there today.
Say it again, Jack.
Pretty clean breakout there today. Very clean gap up, dip, holds green to red, pushes up in the morning, consolidates above VWAP all day, breaks the key level into the afternoon, and pushes another 40 cents. I mean, can't really ask for better price action than that on the breakout day. The day before was really tough. I got shaken out into that weakness too midday, but I did end up rebuying shares at the close and then adding on the dip in the morning. And I was able to get even more size that I had on the initial breakout, just because the initial breakout, I just felt like it happened a little odd the way that it pulled in the morning, and the price action was just not as clean. But then like when it kind of got to the close, I feel like it had formed the support a little bit better. And that was almost just a better buy, just to buy into the close, because buying the initial breakout was just so tough at the midday. And it was
like
just
better time of day and more clear risk level, right?
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah, I've always been impressed, Tim, by your patience on breakouts, because I'm typically, just from statistics wise and profit wise, my longs are just not the big winners. But when a good breakout chart shows itself, I do like longing them. I just hate buying on the initial break for that reason of I just don't have the patience for on the long. So I totally purposely waited with the chance of knowing I might lose it and it might go like to 375 later in the day. But when it was still holding just above the breakout level and then closing strong, I said, this is like perfect, because I don't want to chase too high, but I didn't want to buy the breakout as well either. And so, yeah, I did what Jack did and bought right into the close. And then, just sold it into, I think highest was 380. And then same thing, bought a small piece into 4. Nice. And then sold it into, I think 4, like 25, 22 or something. But yeah, so now I don't want to touch it long. It's the same thing, looking for the short.
Yeah. So I'm curious on you guys' opinion on this for the short, but like, are you going to be paying attention to those levels from back before it delisted? Like the 6 area, I think it like had a spike and top out at like from a few weeks ago.
Yeah, that's a good point. Let's go to
it was just like LK then, I think, was the ticker.
Yeah. Let's see here. Oh yeah, right. That's a great point. I mean, I guess it's a question of how many people who owned LK and are bag holders know it switched to LKNCY, right? Like how many people are looking to sell their bag?
Because like, I'm envisioning the scenario where like in a day or two, if this is still going, I mean, get like a gap up parabolic, like up into the 6s, like, okay, am I going to get aggressive like right at this resistance point, or like, does it just not matter now?
Yeah, I don't know.
I think I would get aggressive. But just based on the daily chart and the resistance there, I mean, just thinking based on the breakout too, it breaks out at 3, goes to 6, it's day 3, there's massive resistance. That's the setup where I want to be going after level 2 turns and kind of just covering into the weakness and just seeing if it's going to give that huge pull on day 3 off that resistance. And it gives you kind of a level to base it off of too. So I like that idea a lot.
Volume's pretty good on this one, right? Is it like 10, 15 million shares a day or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
I think it almost did.
Today was like 16, just past 16 million. Yeah.
Wow.
So,
okay.
It's good.
So I mean, if it gets extended enough, this could also be like a really crazy OTC panic type setup.
Yeah.
I was quite surprised. I was quite surprised by the first trade day that we shorted that you were talking about, Grittani, because I was expecting for that panic to come, maybe fade for a little bit, but then into the close, like really panic set in. But it really held that like 250, 240 level really well, and so that's what kind of made me a little uncomfortable. Like, why isn't this panicking? So hopefully this run gets that going.
It definitely was like something's up. Like this seems kind of weird.
Yeah.
And I was hoping that it was just like, okay, they're just gonna make it tricky, gap it down, and then panic comes Monday morning. But yeah, total opposite.
Yeah, and
go ahead, Jack. Sorry.
I'm just thinking that it started at 95 cents too, and it only kind of had that one red day. So I'm even judging the extension based on like that $1 level, and I think that if we see, mid 5s or higher, there's a good chance there'll be at least a 20%, really clean panic. And if we can go like 6, 7, 8, then I think it would be very, very ideal setup. Probably one of the best of the month. And I think we could get maybe a 30, 40, 50%, straight panic. And that's kind of what we really be able to capitalize on. But we'll see if it can even muster up another green day tomorrow. It could just gap down and fade, but I'm hopeful of the 7 or 8.
CYDY round 2.
Yeah, I mean, like those CYDY ones are like so rare these days. Like if we could get a couple in the span of a month or two, like that'd be just awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then
I wish
the
I
other
could.
one is CHK, the
Oh,
whatever
yeah.
the ticker is for that now that is delisted.
CHAK.
I don't know why people buy these
CHAQ?
bankrupt companies. I don't know why they run, but they're so much fun to trade because
Oh, they're great
it's
to trade,
predictable
yeah.
action.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I'm just like, okay, what am I doing? Why is there a bankrupt stock up 100%? You know what I mean? Like, what's going on? But the patterns and the level 2 and the tape is just some of the best out there just to read, and especially the Y tickers they just have the most beautiful price action. And
Yeah.
this one too is just holding green to red so well and just acting like the old school OTC patterns that are, I think, the most simple in the market.
And Tim, I wanted to ask you have you I might look into tonight just to know for sure, but I haven't looked in the filings of LK yet, and obviously they were the former just LK on, I think, the New York Stock Exchange, right? And they kind of got to this place by lying about their sales of how much coffee they were selling.
Right.
And so I'm wondering if that was just a mishap and now they're kind of still having sales and they're still kind of a company, or if this is just turned total scam and you're just using price action to just kind of the guide. Ultimately, price action is king, right? Price action is going to lead the way, most of the time. But I'm wondering how scammy is this company still after going to the OTC, if you looked at all.
Yeah, and truth be told, I haven't really dug into it at all. Like I've seen like a few tweets here and there. Like I think just on a little bit that I've seen, it sounds like it was just like straight up fraud, but I could be wrong. Like I said, I haven't really looked into it, but it's just gonna be price action reign supreme. Like, like the big, like CYDY, like, we've seen people arguing about like whether that's real or not. Like it really doesn't matter in the end, right? Like, all that matters is we get that beautiful panic action and, let's just capitalize on it.
Yeah.
Yep. Love it.
I just love I love the OTCs because it's so price action.
Oh yeah.
Diamond sales, level 2 tape dictated. Unlike the
the
NASDAQ, there's just so much more little things that you need to take into consideration. And, I'm just very happy that whoever's running LK, like, thank you. I keep running it up because it's a great trading vehicle for when it has volume, and then it's going to die off eventually. And then we're going to move on to the next ticker that fits the criteria of, multi-day runner patterns.
Mm-hmm.
Do these tickers remind you, Tim, of back kind of when you were first starting with the maybe buying the early promotions or some of these promotions that brought in 10, 20, 30 million shares? Do these plays kind of remind you of back in those 2013, 2014 kind of days?
To a degree, absolutely, yeah. Like the LKNCY, the way that kind of supported after that red day and then the couple day grind back and breakout, like that reminds me of like awesome penny stocks, like like the really blatant promoter from way back when. It's really similar price action, like between it all, and especially when the liquidity is there. Like that's the biggest thing. Like that's what's been missing from the OTC market the past like few years for the most part is just the huge number of trades, huge dollar volume. Because that's what gives you the opportunity to like really get some size on it. And also I think it does help like make some of these panics like a lot smoother, more severe, and you get more people who just like have stops in that are getting triggered and stuff like that. The bounces, like like we were saying with CYDY, like the bounce was definitely choppier, and like there were definitely multiple fake turns on the way down. I would say that it wasn't that difficult, at least the first couple of years I traded OTCs, and then it kind of made that shift where maybe the algorithms got a little bit more tricky or something like that. But if you just like take a step back and ignore level 2 and just look at the overall pattern where it's just like, huge flush, huge bounce. Like if you think about it like in terms of like a 5-minute chart or a 10-minute chart or something like that, like, yeah, that's textbook.
Right. Yeah. Because I wouldn't say it was a regret because it's like, I'm happy I started trading when I did in mid 2016, but I always going back watching video lessons of Sykes talking about how you traded them or how he traded them back in 2012 and 2013. I just like, man, like how much I love OTCs and to see how much volume they had back then. It's awesome. So really happy CYDY and LKNCY are coming around. Very cool.
We need more OTC traders out there. We need more volume.
Yeah. When is Robinhood going to enable it?
That would just be like a candy shop. You know what I mean? That would just.
We'll never be able to leave our computers.
Yeah. I mean, we'd be able to sit there all day and just play off the turns, and just with all the stocks going up, there would just be so much more opportunity.
Can you imagine Robinhooders playing marijuana stocks like next time there's some kind of legalization or something? Oh my God.
Yeah.
That'd be so awesome.
Yeah. Once we're federally legal all across all states.
Still waiting on that run.
Yeah.
And the good thing is too, all the wheat stocks are at the lows. So when they do go, I think it's going to be multiple waves of breaking out, setting up, breaking out, setting up, red days, first green days, all of the above. I think it'll be a really big wave when that eventually comes, but I have no clue when that's going to happen.
You know, the one other OTC that like I actually have a position in it now, which is like a little bit of a bag, but I TOMZ. Like that daily chart and the financials and the hot sector of being kind of COVID related, because they sell like a sanitizer or something. But like that, there's a lot of stuff that aligns there that kind of makes me think that like has some pretty large breakout potential. It's just been tough so far. That breakout and immediate stuff yesterday.
That was brutal.
Yeah, I bought that breakout and then like it immediately stops and I'm just like, okay, you know what? Like I've been looking at this for like 3 months thinking about buying it. Like, you know, screw it. Like I'm in now and like maybe I'll just like add a dip later. Like it's a little bit of like a bend my rules kind of play, sort of like I did with my big CVSI long and my big GRWG long. Like, you know, it's just I can't ignore the fact that like it's a profitable OTC. Like what the hell? Like that's so weird.
Yeah.
For me though, I just feel like, I mean, if you zoom out, like look where it's come from though. I feel like with your CVSI and your other trades, you were more in towards the front side of the run. Now I feel like it's already been, you know, running since February. So I don't know.
Yeah, like if it dipped back down to like $1, then I'd be like, oh shit, now it's backside probably. But
that's probably definitely $1 is a good guide.
Yeah,
it does consolidate, and now since it's kind of double topped at that 150 level, I mean, if it can really just set up and consolidate in this range, I think it could have big breakout potential. But
yeah, I mean, we're probably like a month from the next time they put out a quarterly statement, and I'm kind of also betting on the fact that it's going to be another profitable quarter because, like, obviously COVID hasn't gone anywhere, and I'm sure they're still selling plenty of sanitizer. So
I like the idea.
If I am holding a bag at that point, I think I can probably use that event to get out into. But, you know, so far not working ideal at all. But I think, you know, I'm trying to see the big picture, and I think it could work out. We'll see.
I just hate the action when it starts to go trade in the 140s and the 150s. It just kind of pops up, and then there's just huge sellers.
There's a seller there, yeah.
They don't care. They're getting out in the 130s if they have to.
Yeah. And I need to dig more into the financials of it too and see if there's like a bunch of convertibles or something that I'm not aware of, because that definitely could be part of the problem if there are like some insiders with options or warrants or something like that.
That's what it feels like.
Mm-hmm.
But the volume's definitely not as big as it was in March.
Oh yeah, not right now.
Yeah, you'll need like 5 million plus day for that breakout, most likely.
Yeah.
Well, like that 150 break yesterday that like was briefly there, like there was actually pretty significant volume that came in on that, which was then why it was like also like so concerning when it was like, oh shit, that just stuffed. Like a ton of people just bought that and got bagged. I'm one of them. That's not fun.
So I wanted to ask you, Grittani, as you have progressed obviously over your now, what is it, almost coming up on 10 years, right? 2021 would be
10 soon,
I guess 10. Right. Yeah. I feel like watching you in the chat room and seeing you take certain trades that you have maybe gained a much more patient approach, right? You're much more comfortable maybe swinging because of the dilution or because of certain filings. Would you agree with that? And if so, how, you know, is the dilution is what's given you enough conviction to really swing some of these and really, you know, ride these down for almost sometimes 3, 4, 5 days and really capture a massive side of the move?
Yeah, you know, when the dilution is there, definitely that will help with the patience. It actually hasn't happened too often lately. Like just GNUS, like I've had a couple patient shorts on that over the last month. But before that, like the main one I was watching was CEI, And even a couple of the pops that's had over the past few months, like just with the kind of volume in the market right now, like even though it's dilutive and got those Series C convertibles or whatever it is that are so toxic, like it's still only like 12 or 13 million shares outstanding right now, I think. And there's a 25 million authorized share cap. So I'm just like, I can't feel comfortable like swinging this short. Like when it's that small of a market cap, that small of a share count, like I just feel like I'm risking disaster. So even though like in that case, I knew the dilution was there, I just had to stay away, at least this last round. But some of the other patients, like, like long side patients, I think that's maybe coming more from like tracking and doing spreadsheets and just trying to get as much hard data as possible so that I'm not relying so much on intuition, but like what do the statistics tell me?
Yeah, totally. Because as I've progressed, I feel like I've become less patient where Jack knows because he's seen me take some trades where it's like the one time I want to swing and be patient is the one time I'm blue screwed. Like the fact that I swung CYDY short and LK long and made both money on that today, like that's my best two overnight trades in a long time.
Awesome.
Because I always get screwed. So
yeah. Well, I think for me also, I've just kind of like shifted a bit over the past couple of years where I've really embraced the less is more. Like when I first got into listed stocks, I really had the like, I'm making like dozens of trades a day. I'm constantly pushing buttons. I'm turning so many shares, just, in, out, in, out, in, out. And yeah, I was doing pretty well with it, but then I was also still stepping on the occasional landmine where like I'm taking a $30,000 loss because like then one goes wrong and I get a little stubborn. So it was like, okay, the more I'm pushing buttons, the more I'm opening myself up to just making some dumb, lazy mistake. And it just seems to keep happening over and over again. So why not sit back and find the area, like find the plays where I think the big picture daily chart really is in my favor. And I can sit back and trust this, just take my entry and not touch it unless I'm stopped out or I get, a big move that I've got to pay myself into.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm more into the trade all day kind of thing right now. And
well, I mean, you're more OTCs though, right? Like I think it is a better style for OTCs, honestly, than like for listed stocks.
I still trade about 50-50 on listed.
Oh, are you 50-50 now? Wow.
Yeah, I'm about 50-50 so far in the year, but I have netted more profits on OTCs, especially after CYDY. I think it was NASDAQ before, but I think the OTCs just kind of have heated up almost in like this summertime action. I feel like March and April, I feel like was a little bit more NASDAQ, and now like May and June were more OTC based for me. But I have a hard time sitting through like the bounces and like the dips and if I'm long or short. And for me, I just rather take more size on that initial predictable move and then kind of sit back and maybe trade it smaller if it keeps going in the favor. But just trying to take advantage of that really predictable and quick move off the first move that it has. And sometimes when it's a big setup, that can be upwards of like a 50% move pretty quickly.
Right. Yeah. Well, and that's kind of one of the cool things about trading is it's kind of like to each their own, like different personality styles, favor different trading styles. So like there are definitely like you're making it work. There are a lot of guys I know who do that like constant button pushing who make it work really well. So I'm not really knocking it in any way. It's just that I suck at it now.
Yeah. No, I totally get your style. And when I first started, I really like focused on my style around like you and Huddy and Dux, and Dux doesn't really share too much though, and I couldn't really take too much from him, but you really offered a lot of content and a lot of information on really how you trade. And when I first started it, like what you were saying about your DVD about the adding to losers and having full size on losers, and that basically just hurt me a little bit in the beginning because I was only I would only have full size on my losers, and then I would get stubborn and then not stop out my losers and make them worse. And then like take my winners off too soon because I don't have enough size. So kind of once I stopped adding to losers and only added to winners and kind of like moved my risk down as I keep adding in my position, that's kind of was the difference maker for me. And that's just my personality on how I like to do it. I'd like to get as much size as I can with the tightest stop loss possible. rather than just like kind of averaging in it going against you. And I feel like now you've stopped doing that as well too. So can you kind of like
Absolutely. That was a huge flaw in my trading. It totally was.
Can you like kind of tell the viewers kind of your new strategy now, or like how you kind of size in now? I feel like it's just kind of, how do you pick the point where you want to take your full size?
Yeah, so what I essentially will do is, I mean, every trade I go into, first thing I do before I've even touched the buy or short button is I know what my risk level is. Like I see the chart, I see the point I want to risk off of. And then it's just a matter of really trying to time it to like how close to that risk level do I think I can get my entry. And there are absolutely times where I say, you know what, like I'm not even going to bother trying to be perfect. I just want in, and I'm just going to take my size right here so that I'm full, so that I'm sized in full, and that's that. Like I'm trying to take it in one shot so that it's not like the add to loser and then only have full size on losers and a bunch of quarter sized winners. Because yeah, that was a huge problem for me as well, and it took me a while to identify it. And then I'll even add to winners now in cases where, you know, then maybe because part of the thing with patience is like after a couple hours, there's probably a new risk level I can use on the chart that is just as solid as the old risk level I was using. So now my risk gets cut down. Sometimes I'm in situations where it's like, okay, at this moment, if I cut at this new risk, I'd be a gain still. So in situations like that, like why not add? Why not add to the winner if I think there's still a ton of meat on the bone, you know, for whichever direction I think the trade is going to go.
Yeah, I like that. And for me, I still have a problem just doing that like one shot full size thing, because then I feel like sometimes if I just do a one shot full size entry, then I'm more tempted to kind of go outside my plan and add more because I know I didn't get the perfect entry. Like if I just get a god awful entry and and it goes against me, then I'm going to be tempted to add and kind of try to fix it. Where now I just always like starting in very small, and then kind of once I get more of a feel for it, once it starts confirming more, I don't really care like kind of where I'm entering. I just want to be entering, just getting a decent average, and although just making sure that I'm right. Because another thing too is like, especially if you just pop up a chart and ones that you haven't been watching, you just go full size just into a reactive trade, it's just it could get very messy. I just like doing it very slow, and then I just try to have the best patience that I can. But that's where you are more experienced than me, and you can just have more patience on some of these plays and really maximize your winners with patience. So
Right. And I think part of my mindset on it is like, let's say I mistime it and my entry is early and stock keeps on moving. I could have entered better. Like really all I'm doing is hurting my risk reward. Like, you know, instead of maybe getting 3-to-1, I'm in a situation where I'm getting 1-to-1 instead or something like that. Mm-hmm. But end of the day, like, you know, whether I had entered at that higher level or right where I shorted, you know, the bad entry, I guess that, you know, either way, I still think the stock is going to wind up in the same place. Like, and either way, I'm going to take a full size loss if I'm wrong. So it's just, yeah, like you're right. Like I could have potentially gotten the better risk reward, but you know, there are cases I'm just going to screw up and I accept that.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I think, I don't know if you remember, but it was way back in the 2018 conference when I think we were doing a roundtable and you said something very similar to that where, you know, somebody asked you like, what's more important, like win rate or risk reward? And it's, you know, almost a little bit of both where, you know, yeah, your risk reward might be 1-to-1, but if your win rate is 90%, it's still going to go where you think it's going to go, you know, right. You shouldn't maybe stress too hard about not getting the right entry, or, you know, obviously as with experience, you can continually get better entries for better risk reward, but not to beat yourself up or feel like you need to keep adding just because your risk reward isn't amazing. You know, at the end of the day, what's your win rate on that setup and how much do you trust your plan in general? So I like that a lot.
Yeah, I have a hard time trusting any stock. Whereas like, if I'm not getting my risk reward, I'm like, this is a waste of time. Like I screwed up. I'm an idiot. Like I have to be getting my risk reward or I'm not happy with the trade.
I guess I still have that problem sometimes. Like I've tried shorting Tesla a couple times this week, and it's like totally out of my comfort zone, even though I'm like, this is so much higher than it should be, and I do think it will come down. But then like we get these panics on Tesla after I've shorted, and I'm like, okay, is like $30 a share panic good? Like, is this going to go $100 a share? Like, I have no idea like how to gauge it or like what to expect. So I'm totally out of my element, and then I just like make bad decisions.
Yeah, that one's just, it's tough. For Tesla, what I'm hoping for is just something like blatantly obvious where like it does like this kind of action down here and then somehow it ends up at like 2000 in like a couple days. And then it's just like, okay, now this is just like, it's just giving it to me. You know what I mean? Like I don't, like down here, I still feel like, okay, the pattern is there, but like,
But it's
still going to be tricky. Yeah. So that one, yeah, it's just crazy. It's amazing just to watch, honestly. I just love watching it. It's cool to be a part of it a little bit here and there, just to maybe for the next one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sweet.
Well, I don't have any more questions, Jack. If you have any more, or if you're trying to, you have anything else to say to our viewers before we close it out here?
I mean, nothing major comes to mind.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for inviting me on. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah. We love having you on. This is going to be a good episode.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. Thanks for coming
Yeah,
on.
absolutely, guys.
Right on, guys. So if you haven't checked out our previous episodes, go back and go watch those on the StocksTrade YouTube channel. And hope you guys enjoyed this episode. We'll see you guys next time. See ya.